And what about your collaboration with Trent Reznor? There's a huge feeling.
Well, Trent and I met in 1990 when he opened up for my tour in America, and I think that was one of his earliest tours that he'd ever done on a large scale. And of course, he went on to become very, very successful and very influential. And I think Trent is one of the only artists amongst many who have been influenced or liked music that I've done with my band or alone, who's actually spoken about it openly and really given me true credit for it in a way that I don't ask for, but I noticed that, and I had a lot of respect for him too, as I saw him work really hard. And so the next time we met was in 2005 at the Coachella Festival in California, where Bauhaus were headlining that, and he was headlining the next evening, and I saw him again then, and we met up, and I think it was obvious that Bauhaus at least had very much influenced him in his formative years, and he never imagined that we would accept to come and play as a guest on his Nine Inch Nails tour, but he actually asked us, and we agreed. But during that tour, Trent very graciously singled me out as his hero, he said, but I mean, singled me out as a person who he really admired musically and everything else. And so he invited me to do some impromptu radio, live recordings in the backstage area of some of the venues of that tour. So, but then he invited me to come and sing during the Nine Inch Nails show as a guest. And recently on the recent Wave Goodbye tour, when he called me and asked me to come and play with him, with Nine Inch Nails, in both of the New York shows and the Chicago shows back in just 1 month ago, actually. That was great because he was winding up his live Nine Inch Nails work and waving goodbye to the fans, and that was also very gracious of him. So we've sort of really got to know each other, even though we always liked each other but didn't really know each other. So that's nice. It's good, and he's very talented, and very a different quality. He has a very sort of insistent line of thought and ideas, and he will be very sure about those in a way, it seems. And musically, it's been, I mean, he has a very varied range of textures and types of songs that I don't think, like a lot of the hard or the general public imagine he has. They imagine Nine Inch Nails as being just like a sledgehammer for 2 hours and a half, and yes, it does have that, but I think he's going to move into more some new work, which will be surprising, I hope. I mean, I'd like to make an album with just him and me, and we've talked about the idea, and he's interested, and if the time's right, it'll happen. But that'll be really interesting because I'd like to make it really fast with him and do it and not overproduce it somehow. But that's just an idea. I don't know what that would entail. Yeah.
And let's talk about the evolution of your career, especially what about the British atmosphere in the last 70s when you start with Bauhaus, comparing to these days?
Well, I moved out of my hometown, which was a small light industrial rural town called Northampton, which is where the band started. I moved out 2 years after we started from that into London, and then out of the country totally to Turkey. So I've been living in the Middle East effectively and working a lot and recording a lot in America and in Europe and not in England. So I left the culture in the early 90s. But if you watch the Joy Division film, actually it's really about Ian Curtis, the Anton Corbijn, what's it called again? You know, Anton Corbijn made a film of Control.
Yes.
If you watch that, that will give you a good sense of the working class culture out of which we came to. But that's more northern, but it was very much like that, very accurate. And none of us were married there at the time. So that it was quite sort of, England had then, and like anywhere does, if you have no hope, you know, the working classes then, when we were moving into adulthood, it was the end of the period where it was assumed that you could have a job for life and didn't have to go to university or make your own company up. It was a very sort of socialist in a way, sort of way. There was a stability in the 50s and 60s that ended in the late 70s, and the economy was really ruining, and it was quite grim. And so we who were brought up to imagine that we'd have jobs anyway for life, or it would be easy, there was not much ahead of us. And if you're creative, like I was, with no training or no opportunity to go to art school. Actually, I must say, I applied to go to art college, fine art course, when I was 16. I was accepted, but I didn't go. For some reason, I didn't want to carry on in a schooling system, like imagining that it would be just an extension of that institution that was quite miserable, really. You know, I enjoyed school a bit, but anyway, so I effectively left the education system when I was 17, but I would always sing, I would always write, I was very artistic, like I can paint, but I don't really follow it up. My parents, it would drive them crazy because I was painting, drawing, singing, but with no aim really. That's just how I was. But it was only when I was in a job where I saw people around me who'd been working there for 40 years, and I was thinking, this is not a life. And without any idea that I could do anything with it, I was sure that I could sing and write. No mystery. There was no opportunity. How was I going to do that? And it came along. I think if you put out something, you sense. When I was young, when I was about 14, I was driving back from my sister's in my sister's car in the back seat, and I was asleep. And I had this moment where I said, "Mum, Mother, and listen to me." And they said, "What?" I said, "I'm going to be a singer." I just knew it. It was like, no, I knew it. It just, wow, that's what I'm going to do. I had no idea. No, it was like, I knew.